Why should I play on Saturdays or whatever day the track meet is, whatever day the baseball game is, if I'm not valued by the institution nor the lawmakers that fund that public institution? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, even LeBron in this last iteration was about to decide not to play after he saw the continued killings that were occurring in 2020. So I think that for the young people, the college age students and the high school students, it's time to take your place. I like some of these athletes that are coming out, but right now, if you compare your career to Walter Payton and Jerry Rice, I don't think it holds up, just to name a few. And so I think young people need to understand this is a moment that they can join the pantheon of legends that stood up for their people when their people needed them the most.
Yeah, well, look, we're teaching our kids the same way we taught them.
Earlier that my background is also in healthcare. I worked.
They got sued in
Hey, family, welcome to a special episode of the Black Man's Roundtable Network. We have a very special topic to bring you today, and we're going to jump right into it. Bobby, right now, what it do, brothers? What it do?
Yo, man, doing great, bro, out here enjoying this beautiful weather.
Doing good, brother. Appreciate you asking.
Hey, y'all already know, man, I'm out here keeping my head above water, man. Just making the way when I can out here in these suites and in these streets, man. But look, today, man, we have a great, actually it's our very first special for our new lineup in the way that we're doing our specials. What a great special to have. Our very first special to have a brother on like what we have today. And so he's been on the show before, but today, gentlemen, I just want to let everyone know that we have the immediate past president of the Georgia NAACP and the esteemed civil rights attorney. Some like to call him the unofficial attorney general for the state of Georgia, Mr. Gerald Griggs. So he's going to be coming out and joining us, man, and he's going to talk to us about something that we have been talking about, the three of us, in a small kind of circle offline. But I determined that, hey, we've been talking about it so much offline that we definitely need to have a special, and we need to have a subject matter expert on the Out of Bounds initiative that I'm sure many of our followers have heard about over the past few months. And it was initiated, it's an initiative by the NAACP, in particular, the Georgia NAACP. And like I said in his introduction, or in his title, that Brother Griggs is the immediate past president of the Georgia NAACP. And he's going to talk to us about how that Out of Bounds initiative, how it is one of the responses to the gerrymandering and the redistricting efforts in the state of Georgia and other states, primarily in the Southeast, to gerrymander those states to where it kind of dilutes the black vote in those states. So without further ado, I'm going to bring him out right now. Brother Griggs, how's it going, brother?
It's going great, brother. It's good to be with you guys back on the podcast. And I'm just honored to be here to have this conversation.
Absolutely, man. We're honored to have you because we know that you are a very busy person. If you live in Metro Atlanta, you turn on the TV, chances are, if you turn on the news, you're going to see Gerald Griggs. And so in his capacity as he was with the NAACP as the president, or is in his capacity as an esteemed civil rights attorney. But Brother Griggs, do us the honor, brother, of explaining to our audience how the importance of the initiative how the NAACP's initiative with the Out of Bounds initiative ties into the redistricting efforts to at least quail some of the redistricting efforts of the parties here in Georgia and other states.
Yes, and so as many know, the Supreme Court this last term returned the Louisiana versus Calais decision, which effectively reduces the power of the Voting Rights Act, particularly Section 2. And so in response to that, states around the South, particularly the Deep South, have begun redistricting to try to eliminate majority-minority districts, both in Alabama, in Florida, in Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas. And so the NAACP on May the 19th launched its national initiative called Out of Bounds. And the Out of Bounds initiative calls on Black athletes, families, alumni, fans to withhold athletic and financial support to public universities, sports programs in southern states that are attacking Black voting rights. And so they named those states and the flagship institutions, public institutions in those states. So the targeted states are Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. And the purpose of this initiative is to make sure they raise awareness to student athletes, to parents, to alumni, and to fans that if our vote is not valued in these states, our dollars should not go to those flagship institutions. And so many of the states continue with their redistricting plans. Alabama pushed forward, Florida pushed forward. But in Georgia and South Carolina, we saw a crack in the state legislatures. In South Carolina, they were able to protect the majority-minority district that Jim Clyburn is a representative from. And here in Georgia, they decided against the redistricting plan of the governor. And so at least for the time being here in the state of Georgia, there will be no redistricting ahead of the 2026 or 2028 elections. So they've been successful in those two states, but it's really a historical moment for the NAACP. As you know, it's very rare that the NAACP calls any type of national initiative to shift any type of financial support anywhere. I can think of maybe 3 in my lifetime that the NAACP has called. And so it's very historic that the oldest civil rights organization in the country would call this. I support it as the immediate past president. I know the state conference supports it. And Madam President Gwen Westbrook supports it. And they just got back from the national convention where the NAACP further outlined its plan. But basically, the action plan is as follows. It urges recruits, current athletes to consider alternatives to go into the flagship institutions in the states that are actively redistricting and to choose either HBCUs or schools outside of the targeted states. And it asks fans to stop buying tickets and stop buying merchandise in the 4 targeted states that are moving forward with redistricting. So it's a economic disturbance. We don't like to use the other word, but it's an economic disturbance, and it's one of the biggest ones the NAACP has undertaken in the last 30 years.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Bobby, Rodney, jump in, brothers.
So I'm sorry, Rodney, if I jumped the gun on you. My question is the obvious, okay? Well, we're asking student athletes coming out of high school to choose our respective HBCUs. The obvious question is, are HBCUs prepared to offer the kind of money that the other D1 schools are obviously offering, which, as we all know, is a major, major factor in determining whether or not they're going to go to a respective HBCU or to go to one of these D1 schools. Are HBCUs prepared for that? Or even should some major athlete decide, yes, I'm going to go to a FAMU, a Howard, South Carolina State, what have you? Are the schools prepared for an influx of these type of athletes? Should one lead the charge for others to follow?
I think they are. And I think we have to look no further than Jackson State a few years ago when they had the number one recruit in the country, Travis Hunter, go there when Deion was coaching. So I think they're ready. Now, if you're asking if the facilities are the same as SEC schools, we have to say no. But we think that if there are a large amount of rival 100 or the top 100 recruits in the country go to these schools, I think the infrastructure will dramatically change. We already see the growth of pilot networks that are growing, HBCU Game Day and others that are going to rival what you see in the SEC as far as the coverage. Ryan Clark is now with HBCU Game Day. But we're not just saying to go to HBCUs because we understand that the infrastructure is not quite there yet. I think it can be built, but it's not there yet. But we're saying go to schools outside of those targeted states. And there are schools outside of those targeted states that are ready instantaneously. And you only have to look as far as the last 2 national champions did not come out of the SEC. And, that hurts my heart being a Georgia fan. But we have to know that, Ohio State and Michigan and schools like that, Indiana now already willing and able. The Pac-10 is one of the biggest conferences. The Big 10, which is now the Big 12 or whatever it is ready and has had the last 2 national titles. So I think that when we're talking about football and competitiveness, we think that there are conferences that rival financially and athletically. And we're not just talking about football. We're talking about basketball, we're talking about baseball, we're talking about track. We're talking 2 athletes that need to understand that we are in a new civil rights moment. And they have an opportunity to join names that live on long after their playing days are over, to say, listen, if my parents and my brothers and sisters and my siblings can't vote in your state, or their ability to vote is being attacked, why should I play on Saturdays or whatever day the track meet is, whatever day the baseball game is, if I'm not valued by the institution nor the lawmakers that fund that public institution?
I'll follow up later. Rodney?
Yeah, what kind of pushback are you seeing from our community on this initiative?
Well, there's always going to be pushback in the African-American community. Many are saying, why now? Why are you asking athletes to shoulder the load when, we're all well over playing age to take this type of decision? But we have to understand that civil rights era, it was always a young people. The sit-ins at the Woolworth lunch counter was young people. Freedom Riders was young people. I mean, Muhammad Ali was young when he decided he would not enlist and go into the draft. Well, he was drafted and would not go into the Vietnam War. So it's always been that way. Jim Brown, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, even LeBron in this last iteration was about to decide not to play after he saw the continued killings that were occurring in 2020. So I think that for the young people, the college age students and the high school students, it's time to take your place. And yes, it's a difficult decision. It's going to affect your ability to make it to the NFL. But again, before integration, Bullet Bob Hayes and so many others were great HBCU athletes, and some of the greatest NFL players, some of the greatest NBA players went to HBCUs. So you have to look no further than Walter Payton, the greatest running back ever, Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver ever. I like some of these athletes that are coming out, but right now, if you compare your career to Walter Payton and Jerry Rice, I don't think it holds up. Steve Air McNair from Alcorn State, just to name a few. And so I think young people need to understand this is a moment that they can join the pantheon of legends that stood up for their people when their people need them the most.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
good point. Good point.
Very good point. Bobby,
Can
go
I
ahead.
follow up? Yeah, I just
Yep,
want
go
to
ahead with your
follow up.
follow-up.
What would you say to those who say, okay, the greats that you just mentioned, Walter Payton, one of my favorite athletes ever, the great Jerry Rice. What would you say though to those who say those athletes that you mentioned from the 60s and early 70s, they were there because of the political climate where they couldn't get into predominantly white schools, especially down here in the South. So going to an HBCU then compared to now is really not that comparable. But I think the biggest difference now is the NIL money. And I know you touched on that earlier. The NIL money for high school athletes coming out to be instant millionaires. And if you're not a millionaire, you're close to it based on the money they're giving out right now. For high school athletes, I think it's harder. I personally, and I don't disagree with the effort, by the way. Don't think anything I'm saying is disagreeing with the effort. The only thing I'm saying is I personally think that the professional athletes should take more of a stance than so much pressure on the high school athletes because they're already there. They've got their bag, right? Not to say that they don't deserve more or can't get more, but I think the professional athletes in these states, which would include someone like the Atlanta Falcons, New Orleans Saints, the Miami Dolphins, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, etc. In some of these states, I think if they took a stance on a professional level, it may have an even bigger impact to that state governor, for example, in determining whether or not the Tennessee Titans, determining whether or not they want to move forward with something like this. Because remember, when Colin Kaepernick took a knee, he was vilified all the way up to Washington. He was vilified for it, but he was a professional athlete taking the stance that he took. And you're right about LeBron James as well. And there were others. There were other professional athletes. Eric Reed is another one that comes to mind. There were other athletes who took a stance as well. But not to be long-winded, which I can be at times. People know that. But just to say, I just sometimes say, is the impact bigger on the professional level or to what we're asking high school athletes to do? Because again, I understand the message and I'm not against it. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand, and I would just remind the high school athletes, but for Ed O'Bannon suing the NCAA,
That's right.
they wouldn't have these opportunities in the
That's
first
right.
place. And so you need to understand the legacy and the shoulders that you are standing on. And we don't want Cap to be the only one who stood up in this generation. And so, yes, there's the possibility that your career could end like his. But the last time I checked, Cap wasn't hurting for a
No,
paycheck.
sir.
He can sell a sneaker in 5 minutes that sells out. So what I would say to the young people is the NIL money is not tied to the university. It's tied to you. They're paying for your name, your image, your likeness. So this is an opportunity for you to act as a free agent. I can think of the great Kurt Flood, who sued to bring free agency into the major leagues. This is that opportunity. They are now free to take their talents wherever they want to take their talents. And trust me, the advertisers are paying for the product that is the athletic talent of the young man or young woman. They're not paying for the university. So imagine if the top 10 in the top 100 all decided to go to FAM. I think the Coca-Cola dollars will flow there. The Home Depot dollars will flow there. The boosters will flow there because that's where the talent is. And I promise you the infrastructure will come. So just like in the 50s and the 60s, when Bear Bryant realized that racism doesn't pay, I think that other people will learn that once they see the talent going to where they're respected. And I would also point to this point. The purpose of getting a college education is to strengthen your mind so that when your body cannot react the way it used to, you have something to fall back on. Most professional athletes' career lasts 2.5 years, maybe 3. So that's a very short window to earn. So yes, we want the high school athletes to earn when they get to college. And even some of the high school athletes in Georgia are earning when they're in high school. And so
wow.
that financial incentive to go to, a SEC school is already being paid off in high school if you have the right NIL representation.
Right.
Shout out to the Black lawyers that are doing NIL advocacy. And another thing that these young people need to understand, if they were so supportive of NIL, why did it take 20 to 30 years for them to sue to get it? And now you have one of the greatest coaches of all time lobbying Congress to limit the ability of athletes to earn NIL money. So again, I respect Nick Saban. I respected him as a coach. I think he's dead wrong on this one. I think what's happening is wealth is being swapped into the most needy communities. And I think that wealth should now go to the institutions that created the pathways for you to even get there. Let's be clear. There would be no integration. There would be no end of Jim Crow, but for Howard University, who educated Thurgood Marshall. And so I just think we need to pay due respect. And I think the young people need to understand from the teachings of the older generation that you have a responsibility. Your responsibility is to give back. And I think it can go both ways. It's not, we're not saying don't take the money. We're actually saying just don't support these institutions that want to take away your voting rights. Because if they take away your voting rights, they're going to take away your financial earning capacity as well.
That's right.
That's right. I'll make one more point to piggyback
Go ahead,
on your side of things, Brother Griggs, is what you just said. In NIL, some of these athletes can come out and go to a big school, get the bag, and hit the transfer portal. A lot of people, that's one thing people don't realize. You can still go get the bag and hit the transfer portal to an HBCU after you've gotten paid at the first institution that you went to, because there's no contracts. It's not like when you take the NIL deal to school X that you can't leave. Yes, you can. You can leave. So it'll be interesting to see if any athlete takes that route that basically encompasses all that we're talking about here.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Like everything else, to me, it always come down to education. And I think that if we educate the youth, remind them of a lot of the things. I mean, that's what Gerald doing right now. I mean, he's basically giving them a lesson on the past and how what these athletes did in the past. Now, I also like the questioning, Bobby, in that we know that a lot of the young people today, they don't really, it's hard for them to look at this. To them, the 60s was 1,000 years
Yeah,
ago, and the 70s
you're
was
right.
1,000 years ago. So I'm glad that we're bringing it together. But I think the education piece, and I preface that with Brother Griggs, is that I believe your tenure was over when this Out of Bounds initiative came about as far
Yes.
as the president of the state of Georgia NAACP. But however, I think that one of the things that I think that, and I agree with this wholeheartedly with this initiative, I support it and agree with it. But I think the rollout just could have been better in ways such as, because I'm going to ask you your opinion on how you think maybe the rollout, because of educating the youth, how it could have been better. But to me, I believe that maybe with the NAACP, having a couple of, big name recruits, right there, almost like signing day at the long table and saying that these guys are on board. And like Bobby's saying, maybe even a couple of NFL players to say, hey, we got your back, that kind of thing. I think that would have strengthened the rollout as far as that is concerned. I would like to know, again, your tenure was passed by the time they did the Out of Bounds initiative, but I would like to know, how do you think the rollout went with this initiative?
I think the rollout was a little rocky
Okay.
because even the units did not know it was coming until it came. So, as the former president of the Georgia State Conference, I think that units and the state conferences could have gotten a little bit more heads up that this was coming, and then use the relationships that they have within the state to pull out athletes who would support this, both at the high school level, at the collegiate level, and at the professional level. I got a lot of calls from a lot of head coaches throughout the state of Georgia who are supportive of this and would be supportive, vocally, if they had gotten heads up. I specifically talked to some of the coaches in, the public universities here. I'm not going to name any names,
Right.
but, they are supportive and wanted more information. And, had I been the state president, I probably would have convened all of them because we had previous conversations about a boycott with respect to, the large mountain that stands over in DeKalb County, and, nobody making a statement about that. And then, of course, some of the things that were going on, police involved encounters, and the silence in the state of Georgia from certain professional athletes about that. So I just think that we have a decent relationship with many of them. And I think that National could have done a better job of giving us a heads up. But I think now, especially now coming back from the convention,
Yeah.
those things have been smoothed over. It helps to
Okay.
get two
Okay.
wins
Good.
under your belt, regardless of the rollout. When you got South Carolina and Georgia, you can point to and say, hey, this is what happened when you stand up. I think that, that helps. But I do agree the rollout was a bit rocky. But again, it's unprecedented for the NAACP of this generation to do anything remotely like this. So I think that ultimately it was the right decision at the right time. And we were
Yes.
in the middle of an emergency that something needed to be done.
Absolutely. And before we get Rodney Littles back in here, I just want to say that also you kind of reminded me of the national brand talking to the state brand committees when it come down to the NAACP, because they have, you state guys have a better and a closer relationship with the high school coaches, right? And I
Absolutely.
think, the high school coaches are a very important part of this entire initiative, because they are the ones who really set these young men up and give them the arrows as far as where to point their North Star to. So, yes, I definitely think that the state committees definitely need to be highly involved in this initiative. Rodney, jump back in here, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, man, I really appreciate you being here, Attorney Griggs. This is a very important issue for us because it directly impacts on our representation as it relates to elected officials and this effort to redistrict. They say they're trying to get more Republicans elected, but they're only targeting black Democratic districts. So tell me, what do you think was the motivation and the pressure that was put on? Was it successful to get Georgia to delay? They didn't say they're never going to look at it, but they definitely delayed it before this midterm. I
I
mean, for
think
this year's election.
Yeah, I think that the governor understands the power of Georgia to mobilize. He saw it firsthand 2016, 2018, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. And he's seeing it now in 2026. And so we're a little different from everybody else. You
I
know,
keep
one
telling them.
phone call, the state can mobilize. And so
I
I
keep
think
telling
that
them.
once 1,000 people showed up to the Capitol on a Wednesday, I
Uh-huh.
think that he understood, and other elected officials who are actually on the ballot understood the power of the black vote here in Georgia and how we can get people removed. So I think that was the difference. But I also think that people really underestimate our ability to organize, you know, whether they push it to after the election, this November or whatever. I mean, and we're not going to forget, we can mobilize even more effectively now. So I think that they still underestimate the ability of Georgia, the birthplace of civil rights, the birthplace of social justice, to mobilize. And so I think they were shocked. They got caught flat footed. Didn't think that we could respond to a special session that fast. And we showed them once again that Georgia knows how to organize. We know how to move in the spirit of Dr. King and C.T. Vivian and John Lewis and Coretta Scott King and John Dale Johnson and all of these great leaders from the past. But we also have a coalition of the willing in the now that can move at the drop of a dime.
In light of this pressure to seize power and to suppress the vote, do you see much support from our non-melanated allies in this initiative? I know the NAACP was not just a descendant of chattel slavery organization. It was a multicultural, multi-ethnic
That's right.
founding. So, but we're in the South. So tell me, am I missing something? Because I don't believe that these things are going to change unless we get folks from the other side to be supportive of this, because we believe these are human rights.
Yeah, I think that not as much support as we had hoped. There are allies. Of course, we are part of the coalition, the No Kings Coalition. But, I think that some of our non-melanated brothers and sisters do not see this as their issue. And that's fine. We can go this alone. We have gone alone on so many things. But you need to understand that we secured civil rights. And by we, I mean the black people. And so we are always the canary in the coal mine. When they come for us, they're going to
Yes,
come for
sir.
you later. And so we try to get that across. And again, of the 1,000 people that showed up to the Capitol, many of them were non-melanated, and so we do have a strong coalition here in Georgia, but we want to see a broader coalition across the South, because it's not just Georgia. I mean, Florida, they got
Right.
a crazy governor who thinks it's the 50s down there.
Right.
Alabama, I don't know what's going on over in Alabama. Mississippi and Louisiana, yeah, we all see what's happening there. So I think that there needs to be a more concerted effort from our non-melanated allies to be just that, allies. If you see them coming for black people's ability to vote, that should let you know where we're going. And I think ultimately we have to do a better job messaging this, because again, they made it seem like, oh, we're only coming after Democratic
Right.
seats. Well,
Right.
let's be clear, 90% of African Americans vote Democrat, and we have to ask the reason why they vote Democrat. And now that I'm no longer the state president, I can say why they vote Democrat. They vote Democrat because the Democratic Party is not trying to actively take them back to the 50s, either the
Right.
1850s or the 1950s.
Amen.
And so
Amen.
if you don't have policies that speak to black people and black people's needs, they're going to overwhelmingly go to the party that does. And that's not saying that the Democratic Party does a great job of delivering on the promises. So I think there's a divide on both sides, but I think there's an active Klan rally happening on one side, and we can't be a part of an active Klan rally.
Amen.
right.
Amen. Thank you, bro. Appreciate
That's
that.
right. Good breakdown.
Yes, indeed. So tell me a little bit about your practice now that you're no longer involved in the leadership. I know that you're out there, you're a practicing attorney. Tell us what services you provide and how folks can reach you if they need to get a hold of you.
Okay, well, I'm a practicing civil rights attorney, which means my phone rings consistently now. But I practice everything from 1983 actions. Those are false arrest, false imprisonment, police brutality cases, some prison cases. Do a little bit of personal injury, some car wreck stuff. But mainly, I'm a criminal defense attorney, which means I spend a majority of my time driving around the state of Georgia, defending against arrest and accusations of a
I
serious
see.
nature in Superior Court around the state of Georgia. I've also now partnered with Harry Daniels, who's one of the foremost civil rights lawyers in the country. And so we are traveling
Okay.
the country defending against these atrocities. We have
Yes.
many cases, Don Long's case up in North Carolina. We have the case
Okay.
down in Florida where the young man was brutally assaulted by law enforcement.
Right.
So the McNeil case there. And then, of course, we had what happened at Morehouse with the coach there. So we have a broad
Yeah.
range of high profile cases, but we also have some low profile cases that are equally important. So I'm doing a
Okay.
lot of that work. I'm still doing my organizing work. I'll always be a member of the NAACP. I'll always be
Right.
associated with the Georgia State Conference in some
Right.
capacity to assist there. But I'm just enjoying being an overall troublemaker now.
Getting into good
Good
trouble.
trouble.
Good trouble.
And-
Bobby, did you
Gotcha.
have anything else left on the Out of Bounds initiative before we let Gerald get out of here?
Yeah, I just, I pretty much said what I wanted to express, but I just say continue the good fight. That is
Yeah.
my request. Continue the good fight, and we'll see how this works out on both sides. Whether
Yeah.
it's these young men, young women coming out of high school into college, or whether it's the other way around with collegiate young men and women going to the professional ranks or the professionals themselves. So
Yeah.
I just want to see how this thing works out. Based on how it's currently structured.
Okay. And Brother Griggs, I guess I have one more question, primarily for our audience, because we have a very engaged audience here, and they love to look at these shows and then go out and do some kind of action. So many Black voters are just frustrated, and they wonder what can they realistically do, beyond just casting the vote. And through this Out of Bounds initiative, what specific actions can individuals, churches, civic organizations, and young people take to protect voting rights and ensure their voices continue to shape Georgia's future?
Well, ultimately, they can help register voters. We are going with less than 100 days to the midterms. So you're still within the voting registration window to make sure you secure your right to vote. And then we need to start talking about mobilizing to the polls. We need to mobilize in unprecedented numbers to make sure that the people that go back in January understand that we're not going to do the redistricting at all. And so that's one thing. But
Right.
then we need to have those good old fashioned town hall meetings where we organize so that we can mobilize when the session comes back in January. I think enough of us don't understand civic engagement is more than just voting. We have to make sure the policies that were promised on campaign trail get implemented in the halls of power. And so, regardless who the governor is, the lieutenant governor, the secretary of state, we have to hold them accountable when they're in session passing laws with the House of Representatives and the state Senate. And the great thing about Georgia is now all this is transparent. So you don't actually have to go down to the Gold Dome. You can go to the website, ledge.ga.gov, and watch. It's literally live streaming. You can watch the policies
Yeah.
become committee assignments. Committee assignments come back to the floor for a vote and then ultimately pass over into the other house and pass and become law. So we can watch the whole process and be engaged in the process. We can go to the town hall meetings. We can go to the county commission meetings. We can push back on these data centers that are popping up all over the place because, of course, people aren't watching what's happening with that. And so we can be engaged. And I think this is an opportunity and a time where people can turn their frustration into activity and mobilization. I think that's
Right.
what's missing. So I think in our churches, in our civic groups, in our social organizations, it's time to do more than just talk. It's time to show up where the decisions are made and to make your voice heard, and to remind people that, yeah, you come around every 2 to 4 years to lobby for our vote. We're going to lobby every single day. You in session to actually get some policies that move our living conditions in a way that we voted for.
Yes, sir. And I'm not surprised, but it is wonderful to know that 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 you are on the same sheet of music, Brother Griggs, when it come down to the importance of Georgia. Rodney and Bobby know I talk about that a lot on here. I talk about the importance of Georgia when it comes down to the future of the Black vote, the future of all of the rights that happened in the 1960s, the voting rights, the civil rights, even the Fair Housing Act, but also the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. I think I've said on here, Brother Griggs, is that so goes Georgia, so goes the rest of the country. I don't care how important you think you are. New York, Chicago, Detroit, whatever, whoever you think you are, you better watch Georgia. And I'm so glad that you unofficially kind of said those things when you talked about how they looked and they raised their eyebrows. Governor Kemp knows. I think this man has national aspirations. I think he wants to be on Pennsylvania Avenue, and he knows that that if you disrupt and you upset what's happening in Georgia, as the governor, as a former governor of Georgia, he knows how to move and how not to move. So it is just good to have our I don't know if you like to be compared like this, but our Ben Crump for the state of Georgia, if you will, in Gerald Griggs to kind of saying the same stuff that I'm saying. Georgia, Georgia, Georgia. I'm telling you, look out for Georgia. But with that, Brother Griggs, you can close this thing out how you want, but I definitely want you to close it out by letting the folks in Georgia and beyond, I don't know where all you practice at or whatever, let them know how they can reach you and reach out to you and just learn from you, if nothing else.
Yeah, so goes Georgia, so goes the nation. It's always been that way, from 1865 to 1965 to 2026. As goes Georgia, goes the nation. And you have to look no further than Special Order 15 given by William Tecumseh Sherman, also known as 40 Acres and a Mule. That was in Savannah. Civil rights movement was born on Auburn Avenue. I just think people need to understand that we've always been the champions of Black liberation, the champions of civil rights, the champions of social justice. And so I respect all those cities you named, but it all flows through Georgia.
Yes, sir.
And so I think that what people need to understand is we are in a new civil rights era. And so whatever you would have been doing in the 50s and the 60s, you need to be doing right now. From 2020 to now, you should have been organizing. You should have been convening, coming to the mass meeting, getting engaged. And so what I would leave everybody with is this. Our children and our grandchildren are going to talk about what we do right now. And if you are saying, well, I'm too busy getting a bag, I got to go get the lamb chops with the green thing in the back, and not focused on them taking your rights away and pushing back, you're going to have a difficult conversation with your grandchildren because nobody cares about how good the lamb chops are if we all slaves. So I just think that people need to understand this is our moment. When we fight, we win. And it's absolutely true in Georgia. And there's a historic election that's coming in November. We have almost 98 days for a historic election in Georgia. We can change the course of American history again. And so, if you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me on all social media platforms at Attorney Griggs. We host 2 podcasts. One is Southern Sin. That is all about true crime that comes on every Tuesday. And then we also have Justice for the series where we talk about the cases. We break them down from Emmett Till to Nolan Wells. And so we are talking about these cases, how you can get engaged, how you can get involved, how you can assist in the struggle for justice so that we don't have any more Emmett Tills and that we get justice for and accountability for the family of Nolan Wells and so many others. And so I would just ask everybody, as humbly as I know how, we have all this new media. We have all the ability to stay engaged. Let's get engaged and let's make our ancestors proud, but our descendants better off than we are.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Well said, sir.
Absolutely. Well, look, Attorney Gerald Griggs, brother, we thank you. We know how busy you are. We thank you for taking out a little bit of time with us today. And and we're always, you're always welcome on this platform. We're always our audience. They just the feedback that we get from our audience when you're on. I think the first time you were on, you were in a car, and
Right.
And then you
Yeah.
were.
Driving to
I remember.
Jacksonville.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
I remember that.
You were headed
Jacksonville,
down,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
and you were very apologetic of that. And I was like, look, Attorney Griggs, it doesn't matter. Our audience is just proud and just glad that you are here, and the feedback showed it. I think that our audience just appreciate true brothers like yourself, and so we glad that you spent a little time with us today. And look, you know how you can reach him. Reach out to this brother, and Attorney Griggs, look, you enjoy the rest of your day, brother. Can't wait to get you back on and keep fighting the good fight out there, man, and staying in good trouble.
I will
Amen.
continue to get in good trouble in the spirit of John and CT and so many others. And, for everybody listening to this podcast, get engaged. It's a
Yes.
lot of injustice happening right now. But I promise you, when you get engaged, we can push back. And when we push back and we unify as one, both our people and our allies, we win. So I appreciate y'all for having me on the platform. I look forward to coming back.
Appreciate you, brother. Talk to you soon.
All
Great
right.
closing
Have a
statement,
great
Thank
son.
you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Excellent, man. Excellent.
Yes, sir.
He knocks it out the park every single time. Like I
Yes,
said, he
sir.
was very unapologetic. I mean, very apologetic. I'm so used to saying unapologetic because that's what we are. But I hope I didn't say unapologetic when I said it the first time. I say it so much. But anyway, he was very apologetic, man, about being in the car or whatever. And I'm like, look, just very professional about it. Like, hey,
Yeah.
man, I'm sorry I'm in the car. It's like, brother,
Nah.
our audience don't care about that. And so, but anyway, we always glad to have that brother on, man, because he speaks the truth. He out there in them streets, in them streets, just
Yes,
like one of
sir.
our taglines says. And so look, so brothers, look, let's chop it up, man. Let's chop it up with the post
Good.
analysis of the conversation. Rodney, you want to start?
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate the technical aspect because a lot of folks are not that deep in the weeds as he has been on this issue. And having been a former NAACP president for Georgia, he was very helpful in helping us to understand that. It seems to me that it did help, absolutely helped. It started a conversation around the country, which is what needed to be held. And I'm prayerful that young people would have heard what the NAACP was pushing on this issue because they are the prize.
Yeah.
They can take that bag anywhere they want to go. So it also I think, helped to show young people's power, not just in voting, but they have value and that they need to use it and understand that. So I was really happy that he was able to spend some time with us tonight to go into the details on it. And it's very clear that this may be the only way, or one of the only ways, I should say, to have the kind of influence that we need to have in these states, in the old Confederacy that we're dealing with, because they don't have a problem using our talent.
Exactly.
They don't want to give us justice, but man, if they can make a buck off us, bro,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
definitely they're down with that. So I think if we see ourselves, our young people see themselves as commodities and value, and they handle it properly and understand that they have the talent. They're the ones with the talent that bring it to the table. So I thought that was well said and well presented in a way that helped me understand a little bit better about the details of it.
And I think, Rodney, what you alluded to is that they love our rhythm, but they hate our blues, brother. So,
Yes,
but
sir.
and so I think that two things I want to get to, Bobby, before you get in is that is the clarity, like Rodney said, the clarity that that Gerald brought to the conversation. But one thing I want to harken on and reiterate is the fact that this initiative doesn't say that you can't go to no
Right.
SEC school. And young people, you have to remember that, look, the SEC is definitely the Southeastern Conference when we're talking about football, basketball, baseball, especially football, but it's the premier league. But look, not so much so anymore. He named a few who are, because of NIL, because it's the free agency, if you will, of of football. I mean, of the NFL being able to get in the portal, like Bobby talked about a little bit earlier, is that what he's saying is for these states, especially these flagship schools in these southern states, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, those states who have these schools, and look, all the best and better schools in those states are just not SEC anyway. But they are ACC and others. But for those schools that are in those states, what he's saying is that you might want to take your talent to the Big Ten or the Big 12, Michigan and all these other places, Notre Dame, Indiana, these folks have programs who you have to be just as good to get in their programs to get in some of these southern states. So just remember that, and don't. He's not saying that you cannot go to any school, TWI, traditionally white institute. You can go to those schools, but it's just that what good is NIL deals and money and millions going to do you when you are basically back on some plantation, or you just cannot vote? Your voting rights has been diluted. Remember, they're not going to what the NAACP, the reason they created this initiative, it is not to, they're not going to take your vote away. Well, they will take your vote away, but it's not about taking your vote away. It is about diluting your vote. And you're going to think that, you know, we say, well, my vote don't count anyway. Oh, yes, it does. Your vote counts like I don't know what right now in this very moment in the state of Georgia. However, if they get their way, if these initiatives like the out of bounds does not work, Bobby going to probably talk to you about how, guess what? You can vote, but you may as well, it's like taking black coffee and taking your milk, and you drop two drops of milk into black coffee. I promise you it's not going to make a difference. So that's what your vote will be. And that is not the case yet, but you also don't want for your vote to be that way. And the other thing, Bobby, I tell you what, look, you go ahead. I've been talking long enough. I'll do my last thing before we close out.
Yeah, because I want to go behind Bobby. Go ahead.
Okay. Well,
right,
I think what you were trying to say to your point is like, it's like taking Kool-Aid and putting powdered sugar.
There you go.
Into the water. Okay.
The Holy Ghost can get it.
That way. But no, I mentioned earlier some NFL teams, because, football is the dominant sport here. So, when you think about it, I didn't mention, but I'll mention the ones that there's 9 NFL teams that could be impacted if their players were to take a stance, just for example, based on this initiative. You have Tampa Bay, Miami, Jacksonville, Atlanta, New Orleans, the Carolina Panthers, Tennessee Titans, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Houston Texans. Those states are the ones that have been impacted and targeted. Carolina usually represents both North and South Carolina.
North and South, yep.
So those states that were targeted, it'd be interesting if the professional athletes were to take some type of stance against what these governors have been doing by calling these special sessions and basically diluting black representation out of Congress. And so that point would be something to just be conscious of. When you think about the alternatives that the players have, because to your point, players have the power. Because they want your talent to represent their respective institution. The players have the power to understand this. So when we talk about the fact that, you can actually commit to a D1 school, whether it be in the Big Ten, wherever across the country, you can commit to a school, get a bag, and then you can hit the portal and say, okay, I'm going to an HBCU next. It's going to be really interesting, because I do think somebody may take that particular stance, okay, where you didn't miss out on the bag, but you decide after 1 year, you know what, I'm out. I'm gonna make a point here. And by the way, they could be starters. They could be freshman starters or upperclassmen that are starters for that particular school, and they can say, you know what, I'm out. And suddenly there's a mass exodus of athletes saying, you know what, we're taking a stance here. I can go finish out my career at an HBCU school. These professional scouts know what I'm about. If you're a good enough athlete, the scouts will find you. It doesn't matter what school you go to. They will find you.
That's right.
So, when you realize that when they realize they do have the power in this to make some change, to make an impact, using their talents. That is something that I know in the back of a lot of these coaches' minds, it scares them. It scares them because you dedicate a lot of money and resources to recruit these special athletes to come to your school. And if they come and you do all that effort for them to come and play there, and then for them to decide, you know what, I'm out. Because there's nothing stopping these players under the current system that keeps them from going from school to school to school, right?
Exactly.
That's already happening. But we just haven't seen it happen more often on the HBCU level. In fact, what's happening is the complete opposite. Players that are going to HBCU schools are really looking to get to the next big school. That's what's happening because they may not have been recruited highly by the bigger schools to come there, but they go to an HBCU and they become a standout player. And then suddenly the big boys want you to come play there. That's the way it's set up right now. That's what's happening right now with these athletes at not just HBCUs, but at smaller schools and smaller institutions. So it happens on the football level. It happens especially in basketball. You're seeing that a lot right now, where someone may be a star player on a smaller school and suddenly the big boys, hey, we got a spot for you here if you want to come play here. So it's just a matter of athletes realizing their power in this. And I know it scares these coaches. They're not going to admit it publicly. They're not going to admit it, but it's in the back of their minds that, hey, you know what? When these kids realize, just like anything else, when these kids realize the amount of power that they actually have in this, oh man, they're going to be some sleepless nights by many of the top coaches in college football, basketball, or even baseball, what have you, any sport. And I don't mean to exclude women from this conversation. I'm including the women too,
Absolutely.
because they absolutely can get their money as well. But it's just a matter. In fact, speaking of the women, the WNBA was one of the first people to take a stance, especially during the COVID era.
Always.
You know,
They're always the first almost.
Yeah, absolutely. So the women can do this too. So that's my point.
Yeah. And I think that if what we have to do though, Rodney and Bobby, is we have to paint that picture for those young people of how much power they have. And I think they'll be Rodney, go ahead, brother.
Bro, segue into what the motive was for all of this that created this pushback is this redistricting.
Yes, sir.
But I think it's going to backfire.
I do too.
Why do I think it's going to backfire?
Cook, baby. Let's do it.
Here we go. They've made these districts, these white Republican districts, more competitive by diluting Democratic districts and putting them into these what were strong Republican seats. That's what's happening. In Texas, they were expecting to get 3 to 5 seats. Now they don't know. They don't know. Why? Because of the war in Iran, prices going up, and the whole affordability issue they said, which was a hoax, is now hitting home. And they're losing support amongst their own base. The GOP in 2024 had a new coalition and picked off some white working class whites, and racial minorities who were doing pretty good, middle class. They were able to swing that in just enough of margin to have a big impact in 2024. That now is a problem for them. Black voters, Trump got a decent portion, just enough to make it swing the way he needed in 2024, but he's underwater by 73 points with that same group of blacks that swung for him in 2024. So they got a problem. We're going to be motivated. We're talking about the 250th anniversary of this country. And we're talking about diluting the ability to have representation for people of color. We're going back, like you said, to the 1850s and the 1950s. But in the 250th anniversary, this is going to motivate our folks to come out. It's going to also motivate independents and disenfranchise unhappy voters who are, I'm not going to say MAGA, I'm going to say that supported this commander in thief to be in the White House. There's a lot of, Rodney said it, Bobby, FAFO. They finding out. They finding out, bro. And it's not a pretty picture, my friend. It's not a pretty picture. So I think a lot of this is going to backfire, I believe, simply because of the disregard for the impact on the average American. Okay? When you have a president that says, well, he don't care about prices going up and affordability, and he don't care about health care and taking away health care which, by the way, those cuts to Medicaid are not going to take effect until 2027. They're not going to take effect before the midterm elections. And they did that on purpose. So we have to let folks know that this is right around the corner. So you better make sure you put somebody in office that's going to reverse that and get this thing under control. I applaud the effort by the NAACP and the supporters for this effort. We have to understand that the reason that this happened is because of this gerrymandering effort that came out of the White House and been directed states to implement it to try to get more Republican seats. But I believe, personally, it's going to backfire.
Yeah, it won't be the first time. And we have one of our founding fathers, Mr. Carter G. Woodson, who wrote the book Miseducation of the Negro.
Yes, sir.
And but you know what? I think there's another book that needs to be written at this point, Rodney, based on what you're saying.
Yes,
and that is the misunderstanding of the Negro. Because they study, I talk a lot about, they study us so much. They use these flagship schools in all of these states to one of the biggest things in all of these institutions that they study are Black people. And but as much as they study us, they still just totally misunderstand us, right?
Good point.
And so here, and I think you're onto something, that they don't understand what motivates us. When you're talking about voting, it even does something to the youth who were nowhere near the 1960s. I think it's some kind of epigenetic thing that's in our genetic pool when you talk about taking that away. But you know what? I think you're onto something with that, Rodney. But one other thing that I want to say to our young people as far as this out of bounds initiative, because I really want them to understand. I really want them to get on board with it if they see fit. But I want to talk about loyalty.
Okay.
I want to talk about loyalty. And, I think we've all played sports, maybe probably at the high school level. I don't know if any of the three of us played beyond that. But at any rate, what I would say is this, is that those coaches who are predominantly from the high school level all the way through all the professional and semi-pro and everything, they are melanemic men primarily. And they do a lot of preaching about loyalty and being loyal to the team and all of this stuff. Bobby alluded to it when he talked about, look, go in there, think about yourself. Forget this loyalty trip to some school, to some university, and especially to some coach. We have realized over the past several years that some of these SEC coaches they come off to be some of the most, I'm not going to call them racist, but what I will say is that they definitely don't seem to have the interests of Black folks in mind when they run for stuff and when they get elected or once they stop being a coach all of a sudden, right? You will hear them say things are slip and all this stuff. But they actually made millions off of African-American young men and women, melanated young men and women for years. So what I'm saying to the young people is something that Bobby alluded to, which is that, look, your talents are much more valuable than some chicken neck coach who probably never even played the game or wasn't no good at it, but because of privilege, they got their opportunities because of privilege and everything else. You know how it works, because it takes a certain kind of man supposedly to lead men that look like the three men that you're looking at on this screen right now.
Understood.
And so what you have to understand is that is what the NAACP Out of Bounds Initiative, that is what the three of us are telling or asking you today is this. Look, don't have no loyalty to these people. They don't have any to you. You see these coaches move. You win a championship and then you go the next year, you leave the whole school all because of money or whatever prestige or whatever it is, and they just leave you behind. And so I know some people are going to say, well, that's what Dion did, whatever, but here's the thing. What Dion created before he left, that's what's invaluable. I'm not going to get in a in a peeing contest with about Dion when he's
right,
just one of few
right.
melanated coaches on that kind of level. And but you know, and you can tell it hurt him to have to leave those young men, but he understood what he was doing long term. So I just want to say that, gentlemen, is that to the young people, please, 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 loyalty. Man, don't buy off into that. Look at what those coaches in the NCAA, look at what they're doing, even at the pro level. Look at what
Right.
they're doing. Go after your money. Do what you need to do, and you do not have to do it at a school that's in a state that's state funded at that. They get money from the citizens, from your grandmother. They get money from her to take away the school that you're running up and down the field for, risking your life and limb every single Saturday or Friday, even in high schools, but every single Saturday, you're risking your life and limb for. They are passing or supporting legislation that will would take everything that your grandmother, your grandparents worked so hard for in the 1960s, take it away, but also have you to be born with more civil rights and voting rights than your children to come in the future. And so don't fall for it. Don't fall for it, ladies and gentlemen. All the thing the NAACP is asked, go somewhere. There's other states. There are other leagues who are just as good as the SEC and the ACC and some of the other ones. But yeah, I just wanted to say that directly to them.
You know, the worst example of what you just mentioned as a coach is Tommy Tuberville.
Good Lord, yes.
Tommy Tuberville coached
Talk
at
about
Ole Miss and Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
He eventually moved up to Cincinnati. I think he finished at Texas Tech. But when he was at those schools, and not to mention, he was also at the University of Miami. He was an assistant coach there.
Oh, okay.
When you think about all of those black athletes that he coached as a position coach and as a head coach, it is disgraceful. It is disgusting hearing what comes out of his mouth now that he's in politics. It's like I would love to know, because I honestly haven't heard anybody ask any of those former athletes that played under him when he was a coach, how do you feel about statements and things that he said since he's been in DC? I would love to know, and the media has not covered it at all.
Right.
But I would love to know from any of those athletes who trusted him, any of those parents who sent their children to be, taken coached by him. I would love to hear their opinions about what do you feel about the coach that, recruited your son and sat down in front of you and said whatever he needed to say to convince your child to come play for him, and to see what he says now. How does that make you feel? I would love to hear that, because the stuff that comes from him now is infuriating. It's really infuriating, because you see now what he's really about. He's not hiding it. And he didn't just start that way. It's been there.
Yep. Rodney, anything else you have, brother?
It's about the influence that these young people are under and how they manage that themselves as they go through life. We're at a crossing point right now, less than 100 days. I think by the time this is broadcast, it'll be about 95 days before the general election in November. And our audience needs to understand that this is not an issue of the lesser two evils. Somebody said today between the two governor candidates for Georgia, oh, it's the lesser two. No, it's not even close.
Not even close.
It's not even close. Nope. We have to focus on making sure that our young people understand the importance that they have to take the baton. We are passing the baton. We're not going to be here forever. They've got to pick up that baton, as Gerald was saying, and get engaged. They've got to come out, be active, learn the ropes to protect your rights. It's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. If you're sitting back quiet, we may not be here to help you out. So y'all got to pick up the baton and get busy. There's plenty of good examples. Attorney Griggs gave some very good examples.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that our young people, because I'm thinking about my grands, my great-grands ain't here yet. Yeah. So I agree with Gerald. We got to be ready, and we have to prepare them to be ready. So this is just one example of how youth can make a big difference in this fight for justice, particularly your important right to have representation that looks like you and not have it taken away by redistricting and reapportioning illegally before the census was even retaken.
Yeah. Yeah. Somewhere along the line with the youth, with the current youth, and again, I try my best to not be one of those old dudes talking about get off screaming, get off my lawn and all of that. And I definitely understand that that we tend to be very hypercritical of the generation before us. And I try not to do that as well. And what keeps me grounded is having an opportunity to talk to so many young people who are young enough to be, especially men, young enough to be my sons, and others who are young enough to be my nephews and those kind of things. I get a lot of opportunities to do that. And so, but somewhere along the line, they have been led to believe to use their non-vote
Right.
as some kind of leverage. And what I want for you to know is, and my guess is when I listen to some of the hip hop lyrics and those kind of things, is it promotes that. It promotes if they don't, is voting is not a tit for tat. It's not a this for that. And
Right.
so the bottom line is if you don't vote, literally you don't even you don't count. You can't hold your vote. You can't say, well, if the Democrats don't do this, then
Right.
I am not going to vote at all. The
Right.
only thing the only thing you just did is discounted yourself from
Yep.
the Democrats ever talking to you again. So what happens is when you don't vote, they just completely stop talking to you, because in this country, under the political system that we are under, okay, voting, if you don't vote, honestly, for lack of better words, I don't know if it's lack of better words or just straight up the truth, you don't matter. You
That's right.
literally don't
That's
matter
true.
in this country if you don't vote at all. And they don't want you to vote, number one. So when you say you cannot punish think about it. How can you punish someone by not voting? I mean, if
You
you
have no
really,
leverage. No leverage.
Makes no
the
sense.
leverage, if you really think about it,
Right.
that is impossible to do.
Yeah.
That is impossible to do. So whoever led you to believe to withhold your vote so you can get something, you will never get that which you want by not voting. You will simply get
That's
ignored.
right.
And the best example I can give you is that when you look, we've all seen the cities, we've all seen the towns, that side of town over there, the other side of the track or whatever, where it's kind of run down and all of that. What I can promise you is that that side of town or that area of town that is run down, I can promise you that there is absolutely no politician over there talking to those folks, because that's why their area side of town is so run down, is because they don't vote. And when you don't vote,
Right.
you simply get ignored.
That's
Uh,
correct.
so it's just very irritating to me at this point. But I try to talk to the young folks without, again, sounding like, this
Right.
old man. But what I'm
Right.
telling you, this is
Yeah.
not got anything to do with being the old dude or nothing. It is I'm simply telling you, you cannot use your vote for leverage. It doesn't work. Challenge me, put something in the comments, do something, challenge me if I'm lying. And I
Right.
will be the first to admit to you that I was wrong.
Right.
But what I can tell you, in these 50-something years of life, I am not wrong. It does
No,
not
bro.
work, period. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to say that, gentlemen, before we close out this, our very first special under the new way that we're doing it. But go ahead, gentlemen. I'm
What?
not quite ready to close it out, because I think y'all
Yeah. Yeah.
got some more to say.
Just piggybacking on your comment, my brother. If you're registered to vote and you choose not to exercise that right, they'll take it away. Can you
Yes, sir.
imagine that?
Yeah.
Gladly
If I
take it away.
register to vote, if I miss because of whatever reason, they shouldn't be taking it away. That's unbelievable to me. I don't see where that's even legal, but they do it. So, yes, if you register to vote, you must continue to vote or you'll lose it.
Yeah.
Use it or lose it.
And if you think Rodney is lying, if you're not registered to vote, go and register to vote tomorrow or whatever. Today, go and register to vote, and then don't vote in 2 voter election cycles and watch that it's like you never even registered in the first place
Yep.
because they can't wait to take your name off the voting
They purge it.
registration
They call
or the
it
voter
purging.
rolls, as purging off the voter rolls.
Check.
But also, even
Yes.
if you are a registered voter and you have not voted in the last 2 or 3 election cycles,
Correct.
I can almost guarantee you go to
My voter page.
my voter page. That's it.
Mhm.
Go to my voter page, and I can almost guarantee you that you are no longer a registered voter in the state of Georgia. They've already taken you off of the voter rolls. That's how
right.
quickly and how much. So I promise you guys, and I don't know if Bobby's going to say anything about it as well. I promise you, they holding your vote, trying to use your vote to punish somebody, it doesn't work. Doesn't work.
It doesn't. I just want to share. I want to close out by sharing something my oldest son experienced because he voted for the first time in 2024. I'm sorry, in 2020. The irony with that is I'll never forget after he had voted. First of all, you come in, you're a first time voter, they welcome you. You know, this stuff doesn't take no more than 15 minutes, people.
That's
I'll
it.
never understand the excuse of what, and your employer has to let you go vote. So there's just no excuse that can be offered for it. But quickly to the story. After my son had voted, we got in the car. I said, "Hey, how you feel?" He said, "Feels good." You know, I said, "Yeah, it does." I said, "Now imagine somebody taking that from you. Imagine somebody taking that feeling that you have from you. Wouldn't that make you angry?" He said, "Yes, it absolutely would." And then to come to find out in 2020, that's literally what the current clown in office tried to do. So for the young people, the message is still the same. As you've already mentioned before, if you don't vote, you don't count. And they're certainly going to try to take it away from you. They're going to pretend like you don't exist. And so none of the issues is very simple. Go and vote. You know, the issues that you want to address, go address them. And if that candidate doesn't meet what you asked, or what you expected from them, primary them. Vote for someone else. But to not vote at all is just silly. It doesn't accomplish anything. And all it ever does is it assures that you don't matter, and it assures that you don't count, and you have nothing to say, because if anyone says, okay, you're complaining about things how they are, and they say, well, did you vote? And if your answer is no, hey, nobody wants to hear you.
Yeah,
Nobody
Bobby.
wants to hear you. You didn't take enough respect for yourself to be
That's
heard.
right.
So why
That's
should
right.
we listen to anything you have to say?
And if the vote wasn't important, why are they trying so hard to take it away from you and make it hard for you to vote and to have someone to vote for that represents your interests?
Absolutely.
And gentlemen, even with us, just think about it. Even with us, because of what we do, we probably go ahead on and try to put some effort into it anyway. But even with us, when a person who is eligible to vote come up to us about anything, and then if we ask them, one of the first things the 3 of us going to ask them,
Yep.
did you vote? And when they say
Mhm.
no, even with
Mhm.
us young people, it
That's
is
right.
difficult for us to continue to talk to you
That's right.
because even just it's like you don't count to us either. But because we see you as valuable, we see further, we see you, we see us in you. So therefore we continue to maybe talk anyway. But let me tell you something. It's difficult. It's difficult to talk to someone about bettering ourselves. It's difficult for me to talk to someone about creating generational wealth, creating Black Wall Streets and creating organizations and all this stuff. And then I ask them, did they vote? They're like, no. It's like, man, what are you talking about? It's like, what are you talking about? But it's not a joke. And even for you people who go and you young people, because we wanted to focus this podcast today because we're talking about the out of bounds and all of
Right.
that, which mainly affect young
Right.
people around young people. We wanted to
Yes.
intentionally make this about young people, but for those of you also who go in those voting booths and put down, write in Mickey Mouse or whatever it is, look, you're wasting your time as well. They are laughing at
Yes.
you. I promise
Yes.
you, because
Yes.
no one, I know we love getting likes and going viral on social media and all that stuff. But look, you go in there and you put Mickey Mouse, you write in Mickey Mouse to be funny. Let me tell you something. No one saw that but some election official that threw that stuff in the garbage can. So it didn't go, it went viral right in file 13, that's what you say back in the day, which is the
There
garbage
you
can.
go.
It went
Yep.
right there. That's where it went. So it didn't go low. I mean, it didn't go viral. So
No.
stop doing even that silly stuff, because it's all fun and games and until you are doing some work that you don't want to do and talking about what you ain't gonna do, and these folks looking at you and your stomach start growling. You start to do anything when the stomach start growling. So look, we're not being mean. We're just telling it like it is. I hope that we have become three brothers that you, the young folks and we know we got quite a few young followers. I want to say
Yes, sir.
below the age of 35, we're hitting at something like 30%. So
Yes.
that is huge for a platform that talk about the seriousness that we do. Ain't nobody dance, ain't nobody shaking
Right.
nothing on here. So for us to have that kind of following, we're very proud of that. But I hope that we've earned your trust. I hope that you believe in what we're saying. But we wanted to make this very first special because we don't do these often. We'll only do these about 4, maybe 5 times a year. And we wanted to make it about young people and
Yes.
and what you guys and the power that you guys have. And so that Out of Bounds initiative, that is straight up the power that you
Young
have,
people.
your 18, 19, 21, 22,
Yes.
to
Yes.
basically make 9 or so states that Bobby called out to sit their tails down, just like you saw Governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp, went back. You better go back to your office. You better go back to your office. And I'm telling you, and it is, you have that power to be able to do that in your capacity. And what better capacity that you have right now in life than your physical abilities? Because those are going to
Yes.
erode in about
Yes.
10 years if
Thank
you are absolutely lucky. You're
Right.
hold on to them to 28 if you're 18 years old, but those are going to erode, and then it comes down to this. And
Yes,
so,
sir.
but right now, that is your power. Your power is your physical abilities. Use them to set some of these people down.
Yes, sir.
It's just the power you have right now. Utilize it. You don't have the vast amount of knowledge or whatever that these 3 gentlemen with this white on our, you don't have that yet. But what you have is very powerful, and I think
Yes, sir.
that Bobby and Gerald especially did an outstanding job in pointing that out to
Yes.
you. So that's what you have. Utilize it. You can set some folks
Use it.
down.
Use
You can
it.
set some folks down.
Well said, man. I'm really glad we did this particular
Me too.
topic and we had
Yeah.
Gerald on. And
Yeah.
it's always a pleasure to be with my 2 brothers, talking
Absolutely,
to
man.
our
Likewise.
audience and our followers because, we believe in truth, we believe in action, and we believe in the future for our communities. But we have to get it together because
Yep.
time is running out. It's
Yep.
running out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I would just point out to the young people that, again, that feel like their vote doesn't matter, etc. We value you more than you value yourselves. That's the
Mhm.
way we're
Yep.
looking at it. We value you more than you value yourself
And
because
that's normal.
we believe your vote matters.
Yes, sir.
Don't get discouraged. Stick with it because that's what they're counting on
Getting
to have voters
discouraged.
be discouraged. Absolutely. And not show up and then they backdoor their way in. And we're
Yes,
trying
sir.
to say we can prevent that and prevent a lot of this foolishness if you take your vote seriously. That's it.
Yep.
Amen. Well said, bro.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And at the end of the day, money ain't everything. Money ain't everything. Every civil rights leader, every great person almost in the history of this world, died without anything. But I tell you what they have a
Great
legacy.
name.
And we
That's right.
still talk about them to this day.
That's right.
But so money ain't everything. So anyway, gentlemen, hey, look, great episode, man, for our first special under the new way of doing the way we do things now. And I think it was a great success. And I'm looking forward to the next special. I think we may have one more before the year is out. And we don't know what it's going to be about, but we sure. But I tell you what, now we have a standard. And this one, man, we're gonna have to at least be as good as this one. So we
Yes,
have a
sir.
standard now, and I'm looking forward to it. And with that, be sure to follow us on our socials at Black Man's Roundtable to never miss one of our special episodes and catch the new episodes of Flipping Tables podcast on the Black Man's Roundtable Network, the first, second, and third Thursdays of the month. All new episodes drop at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Until next time, we will see you in them suites and them streets. Peace.
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 Flipping them tables.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hey, family. If you like what you saw, visit our website at blackmansroundtable.com for more information or to check out more content. Until next time, we'll see you in them suites and them streets. Peace.